This is me and my younger brother. And my mother always taught me you got a responsibility to your younger brother to set an example. I think oftentimes I failed in doing that. And I think that he understood certain things better than I did, absolutely. And that just goes to show that being the oldest doesn't always mean you're better. Being the firstborn doesn't always give you an advantage over your younger siblings just because you're older. When you look throughout history and you look at Hollywood and people who've gotten famous, let's take the Jacksons, for example. The youngest took the mantle and he became larger than life in a lot of respects. He became way more successful than his older siblings. He made a greater name for himself. You look at somebody like Dolly Parton, who everybody knows growing up in the 80s. She was the youngest of like 11 siblings. We look at other examples like people like Jim Carrey, who's very successful. He was the youngest in his family of siblings. Very successful with movies like The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Liar, Liar, In Living Color, Cable Guy, just to name a few. This man put it down. When you look at a guy like Steve Martin, who was hilarious growing up in the 80s, with movies like Little Shop of Horror, where he played this dentist, and you have movies like The Three Amigos and so many other films that he was involved in. Just so much success, so funny. He was the youngest of all his siblings. The Bible says a wise man loves to be corrected, and there's been plenty of times when my brother had to correct me on things, even though he's the youngest of both of us. I respect him for that because I know he only did it out of love because he didn't want me to make the same mistakes over and over again. He's honestly one of the strongest people I know. He's faced death multiple times, got into a car accident as a little kid, opened up his whole face. He was so strong and he survived that. He got stabbed in his stomach with the incident that happened when he was a teenager. He survived that. He's just so resilient. I just really look up to him for how strong he truly is. With all that said, I want to talk about this issue of Jesus Christ being the firstborn of all creation. There's a biblical concept of the firstborn, and it's not what we think it is. It's not what we naturally know, in that being the firstborn, meaning you were the first in sequence to be born. In the Bible, it's a little different, and I'm going to show you exactly what it means. And furthermore, I don't believe Jesus Christ was created. The verse in question used to be like the ace in the hole for me. When I used to read Jesus Christ is the firstborn of all creation, that was like a slam dunk. But I had to get more understanding. The more you read, the more understanding you get. So let's get right into this. Exodus chapter 4, verse 22. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. Now, is this talking about chronological order? Absolutely not. We know Israel was a baby among the nations. You had nations like Mesopotamia. You had nations like Egypt, Babylon, so on and so forth, that were way older than Israel. So this is not talking about chronological order. What is this talking about then? This is talking about prominence and importance. Exodus 19:5 talks about how God tells the children of Israel, if they obey his commands, there'll be a peculiar treasure to him. This is very key into understanding the term firstborn in the scriptures. It's not talking about sequence of birth, nor is it talking about a chronological order. It's talking about prestige. Another example of this is in Genesis chapter 41, 51 through 52, where Joseph names his sons. The firstborn was named Manasseh, and the second one was called Ephraim. So these are his two children. But check out what the Bible does later on. In Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 9, the Bible says that Ephraim is God's firstborn. Ephraim was more highly favored than his older brother Manasseh, because when his father Joseph brought the two children to Jacob, Jacob gave Ephraim a greater blessing in Genesis chapter 48. Joseph objected to Jacob doing this, but this is something that Jacob felt in his heart, that the younger brother would be greater than the older brother. My last example of prominence and prestige over chronological order would be the situation with David. See, in 1 Samuel 16, 10 through 11, we know that Jesse presented his 7 sons before Samuel the prophet, because one of these were going to be anointed king. But Samuel said, none of these have the Lord chosen. Of course, we know, if you keep on reading, that David was chosen. But David was the youngest of all his brothers. Psalms 89:20 states, I have found David my servant, with my holy oil I have anointed him. If you skip down a few verses, the 27th verse, also I will make him my firstborn, higher than kings on the earth. Again, this is establishing that firstborn in the scriptures does not always mean chronological order. It can also mean prominence, high impact, or high value. And I think when we revisit Colossians and we read it in that context, Paul is pretty much letting the Colossians know, and future Christians know, how supreme Christ is. He's supreme as a creator. He was even supreme when he was crucified and then resurrected. Jesus Christ is God in the flesh, and you can't be no more supreme than God. A holy God that can change your heart, that can change your mind, that can give you a real future, a future that's filled with his love. Overall, my stance on it is that Christ is God, and God is supreme over all. Supreme over all flesh, supreme over all evil, and supreme over all sin. And he could destroy your sin and set you free, just like he did for me.